Today in the Diz List, we discuss the top 5 things in our park bags.
Welcome to the Diz List, the podcast that ranks everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob, and welcome to episode 22, where we discuss the top 5 things in our park bags.
Before we get to our list today, I'd like to actually ask that our loyal followers and our loyal listeners do us a favor. If you've been enjoying the show, please share this show with your friends, right? If you could get one person, just one person in your life that you think would enjoy this show to listen, it would really help us out. So, that's a little bit different than our normal call to action of following along on Instagram and Twitter, but I think that will really help us grow this show even bigger.
Yeah, we would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I had a question before we begin here, Nick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's been a lot of changes the past week.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's been a change in leadership here at the Walt Disney Company, but I'm hearing some changes about the park, something about park reservation system. I've read a little bit, but I don't know it as well, and I think you understand it a little bit better. Can you explain it to me and the listeners, if you don't mind?
Well, I've heard, now whether or not this is true is, remains to be seen. There's been no official announcement from Disney, but I have heard that Disney is doing away with the Park Pass reservation system.
So that means we can just go to the parks and show up anywhere, any day?
Yeah, so you have your date-based tickets, right? And currently, if you buy your tickets, you also have to make a reservation. And it's been kind of the script that Disney has used has been that it's helping them with staffing and it's helping them with being able to predict crowd levels. Now, on the flip side, it's also for people who are not Disney savvy. It has caused some families, like, they've bought tickets, they get there, and they don't have a park to go to. They have the tickets. They can't go in.
On one of our trips, we pulled up to the park, and this poor family had a sign that said, "We came here from Europe," forgot specifically what country, "We're in need of tickets, please help."
Right.
That was kind of sad to see.
Right. Well, I don't know I don't know if Disney's making a change because of things like that and word of mouth getting out around things like that, or if it's really that it's not helping them as much as they thought. And honestly, I think it actually is helping to raise the park, the crowds, right? Because you've made your reservation and darn it, you're going to stay there, right? So you've made your reservation for Magic Kingdom. You can't now switch to Epcot, because they might not have availability or something.
Right.
And then the other issue is park hopping, which is also supposedly coming back to its old form in a way. So right now you can't hop before 2:00.
Okay.
And you have to tap in at the place that you were at, that your park reservation was at.
I've heard some crazy complicated stories about this specific thing that you're talking about.
So they're talking about making that go away. So you would be able to hop at any point in the day. Now, here's where I think this would really alleviate some of the crowd issues, is that if you go to Magic Kingdom and it's really crowded.
Which is like that most of the time.
Right, but when it's really crowded, right? When it's so unbearably crowded, but there's like an 80-minute wait for Small World, those are the days when if you have a hopper, you may just say, hey, you know what? I know we plan on doing Magic Kingdom right now. Let's jump over to...
Let's start at Animal Kingdom.
Let's start over at Animal Kingdom. Or let's hop on the monorail. We'll go over to Epcot. We'll do some Epcot stuff, and then we'll come back here later on. I think when you allow people to move away from the crowd, it balances things easier.
Well, another way to look at it, too, from a financial standpoint is... Someone like me, who is a money saver, I would just buy the regular old park pass because if I do a park hopper, it's that much more money. Mm-hmm. Now, I would consider doing that if I had freedom, to add on the extra. What's the extra cost? $40, $50 extra?
It depends on the length of your ticket. I recently bought my tickets for my upcoming trip this summer because I was afraid that prices were going to go up. And then there was a really good Black Friday sale on Undercover Tourists. But anyhow, I bought park hoppers, and it was, when I priced it out through Disney, it was about a $400 difference for 4 people for a 9-day ticket. So you're looking at, yes, around $40 per day for a family of 4 if you're going for that length of time.
So obviously I'm talking to the numbers guy here, so you can tell me if I'm on track for this. So a person like me is going to book a 1-day ticket for all the parks because park hopping is restricted. So let's say, and obviously that the park pass system is in place for financial reasons too, right?
That's Disney's company line, and
Sure.
I don't disagree that used properly, the park pass reservation could do what they say it's supposed to be doing.
So let's say they get rid of the time specific at 2:00 for park hopping. That's gone. Now all of a sudden, maybe I'm going to spend more money.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend more money because now I know I can go whenever I want to go, because 2:00 is such a, I don't know, it's kind of during nap time for the younger kids, but I would be willing to spend more now that there is that freedom. So they could look at it that way too, right? From a financial perspective, people like me may spend more money.
It may entice some people. I don't know that it's going to actually impact the number of people who purchase park hoppers. It might. I think more what's going to happen is you're going to see that the people are going to use the park hoppers the way they used to. And, if you don't have to have park pass reservations, you might, like, for instance, for my family with park hoppers, if we're staying at a Magic Kingdom or a Epcot area resort, that opens up like going to get dinner in one of the parks that we wouldn't normally been able to do.
Yeah.
So like right there, financially speaking, that's added money there. And let's be honest, you walk into you go into those, especially Epcot, you go into Epcot and there's always the festival booths because it's a perpetual festival now. Yeah. So even if you have a dinner reservation, you end up stopping there.
You get a snack here and there, and yeah.
So financially, I do think it will impact them, not because people will purchase more of those tickets. I think because people will spend more time in the parks. Because if my alternatives are leave Magic Kingdom because it's so crowded I can't deal with it.
But I can't get in until.
Right, but I can't get into anywhere else.
Yeah.
Or my alternative is now, okay, you can hop to another park immediately. It's 11 o'clock, it's packed, you can go over to another park. Well, that's more time in the parks, and more time in the parks is more money for them.
Yeah.
So I do think financially it's a smarter move. We'll see when this is officially announced. I heard on one of our favorite, we both like to listen to the Disney Dish with Len Testa and Jim Hill. And I heard that this decision was already on its way
Oh, this is interesting.
Iger.
Yeah.
And that Chapek just didn't live long enough to
Yeah.
to announce that he was doing it and be the good guy.
So Chapek was involved in that decision and probably would have not been a hero because he's done so many things that have ticked off loyal Disney fans, but it could have helped. But it really helped now that Bob Iger got to make or will potentially make that announcement.
Yeah. So I just think it's interesting that that's going away. I'll be interested to see what else goes away, in the coming weeks and months. I don't think it's because of Iger. I think these are decisions that were being made prior to him taking over, but we'll see.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing at the very least is that Bob has worked with the company, so they're bringing back somebody that has this amazing tenure, and it's not, hey, we got rid of this guy, we're just going to put Josh D'Amaro here, which I don't know how that would go. He's already part of the company. He's head of Parks and Experiences. Is that the title?
Yeah, something like that. Parks, Experiences, and Entertainment, I think.
So knowing that someone is coming back, it's kind of like that confidence. Like, this happens a lot in the education world where your superintendent leaves and the superintendent comes back as like an interim superintendent type thing. I don't know. It's the closest thing I can compare to since I'm in the world of education.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly was able to hit the ground running because he already knew the ins and outs. This isn't like a brand new CEO who had to figure things out. He comes in, knowing the lay of the land, knowing what works, and so he doesn't need that adjustment period that most C-level executives would need coming in. So
Again, I say this all the time too. It's a fantastic book if you want to read Bob Iger's book. Loved it.
yeah,
All right, that is it. Now we're going to who's performing at the Skittles halftime show this week?
it's a surprise.
Is it? I may have set you up for an answer for this one.
No, I know, but it's a surprise for you.
Oh,
It's your
is it?
favorite, It's your favorite band.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's. Yeah, I guess they're always going to be my favorite band.
So Kiss is performing today at the Skittles halftime show.
That's impressive.
Yeah, we got Kiss.
How much did that cost?
Every half penny we make from every play this podcast gets is going to pay Kiss.
Oh, jeez. See you in a minute. So, in order to get our podcast started, we needed some way to get it out for everybody to hear. So, what we decided to do was go online and look around and try to find someone who can distribute our podcast to all the main services for us. We did a little research and we found that the best one was Anchor. Now, Anchor's a Spotify company, and Spotify is something that I use every day, but it also goes to other platforms. It's an easy way to make a podcast, and everything is right there in the app. So, for example, Anchor has tools that you can record, edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. If you don't have any professional editing software, you can do it right there on your phone. When you host your podcast on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on all the different listening platforms. I do Spotify, but you can also do Apple Podcasts and many more. Okay, students, let's review. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. If you don't have all the equipment and all the computer editing software, you can do it right on your phone. And the best part is it's free, like free, which is great for sure. Go and download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Go for it.
Welcome back from the halftime show with Kiss. What was your favorite part about the show, Rob?
Where Paul Stanley's hair caught on fire.
That was insane.
Yeah, they put it out pretty quick though, but
Yeah.
that's what happens when you use that much Aquanet.
Aquanet. Wow.
I
throwback.
wonder what percentage of our listeners even know what Aquanet is.
Man, that's a throwback.
Yeah, it is. The white cap and was it like a fuchsia colored?
Yeah, and you could. I mean, I didn't use Aquanet because I didn't really have that kind of hair, but
Again, two bald guys talking about hair care products.
yeah, but I do know that it's quite flammable.
Yeah.
We definitely.
Yeah.
Some of my friends and I had some fun with their sister's Aquanet and like seeing if we could start fires with it. Not the smartest ideas.
Chasing the dog around with a flamethrower.
Oh dear God, no dogs, no.
Don't try that. Don't try that at home, kids. No. Don't try that at home. All right, I'm not gonna lie here. This is a very exciting topic for me.
Really?
Which I know for I know
This
you
is
have
exciting?
that reaction. I love packing and getting things ready for my park day. It's actually a fun thing for me to do.
I mean, I guess it means it's a signal that you are going to a park, and so therefore I can see why it would be exciting. I got some really good responses. I put a thing out on Instagram about what's in your park bag, and I will discuss some of those later because a lot of them are actually on our list. I think our lists are going to match quite a bit today.
Yeah, and that's fine.
But I think it's a good one to talk about and discuss because if you're a listener who's found us because you're prepping to go to Disney World,
This is a good one to listen to.
This is a good one to listen to.
Yep. And even though I did top 5, I mean, there's more than 5. So, I mean, I sort of did mine in categories with subcategories. You'll see why.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense that everybody has a different method to their madness when they pack. And actually, I was talking with my wife yesterday when we were kind of just wandering around the roads here. We were on some trips and just going to different shops and
I saw you drive by the way.
yeah, I beeped. You were out by the truck.
Yep.
So
Did you see my new license plate?
I did see your new license plates. Rob's wife got him some Bill's vanity plates, which are pretty funny.
Yeah, it was a pretty good birthday present.
Yeah.
So thank you to my wife and kids.
So we were talking about the park bag episode, and my wife mentioned that, like my list could differ from yours in that we still pack because our kids are just enough younger than yours,
Right, yeah.
that we pack differently because our kids aren't carrying their own bag.
Yeah.
I mean, my son could, but my daughter's not going to be carrying a backpack.
If you're a newer listener and this is your first time listening because this is something that interests you, Nick's kids are elementary age and mine are kind of teenage-ish. So just for context, that'll help with our stories.
Yeah, so I think that would make a difference. But if you think back to when you were packing bags, 4 years ago,
Right. It was a little different.
right? 4 years ago would be about the ages. 4 or 5 years ago would have been about the ages that my kids are,
Right.
and so I could see you packing that way.
Right.
So I do think there's going to be some differences, and it also matters, I think, too. I wrote my list generically, but dependent upon which park I'm going to, I might pack differently.
Oh, see, I want to hear that stuff too.
Yeah.
That's also interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'll address it. There's one in particular that I'm going to mention that changes if I'm going to like Hollywood Studios, for instance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
My number 5, the Vegas odds are pretty high that it'll be on both of ours.
okay.
Mainly because we are our family, my wife and I. There's a lot of Irish, English, Scottish, German,
Yeah, it's on my
Scandinavian,
list. It's on my
Italian. Yeah, so we're we're sunscreen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's on everybody's. But I'll speak specifically on the sunscreen that we prefer to use. Everyone kind of has their own thing, and we feel that our favorite the last couple years has been the spray-on sunscreen. Specifically, we like the Hawaiian Tropic spray-on sunscreen, higher SPF, because our kids burn very, very easily. They are very fair-skinned, so we have to be very careful about that. So sunscreen spray-on. The only other issue we've run into sunscreen spray-on is being able to get in the parks or having something that's too big on the airplane. Now, and again, you know this stuff better than I do. So what's the rule on an airplane? What's the maximum size, or you can't bring a full bottle of shampoo? You have all this memorized, so I'm going to ask you.
I don't have it memorized, but I can say that we generally, in our check baggage, we usually put our products like that. But a lot of times what we'll do is order, like in our first order from either Amazon Prime Now, I think it's called, whatever it is, and or Walmart or whatever grocery service you might be using, we will typically have some sunscreen delivered with that.
Well, I'm sure you're going to talk about that a little bit more too, since the Vegas odds were pretty high. So
Yeah.
our kids can tolerate it. Obviously, they would love to not have to wear sunscreen, but we absolutely do. If you're planning a trip to Florida and you're very susceptible to getting a burn, regardless of your skin tone or your nationality, depending, I think it's important that everybody take care of their skin in whichever way. And with that Florida sun, you can't mess around. I mean, you walk outside here in New York and you can get a minor burn, but boy, that you can get burned pretty bad. And the thing is too, and the reason we bring this one up, if you get burned early, and this happened to me when I was a kid all the time when we would go to Disney, because all these pictures of me as a kid, I have like
I've seen some pictures of
on
you,
my
yeah.
cheeks. I am burned to a crisp.
Lobster like.
I am. Yeah, a lot of those pictures are that.
Yeah.
So my point is, if you get burned early, then your pain and discomfort is going to travel through the rest of your trip with you, and it's going to make you more miserable through the rest of your trip. Mm-hmm. So wear it just for your own sake and your own happiness.
So I'm going to talk about the sunscreen now because it's also 5 on my list.
Oh, good timing.
So I agree that, you need to bring, I didn't actually write down sunscreen. I wrote down sun protection. And here's why.
Sure.
So we're bald. And so I always have a hat with me.
Great point.
And so I have one of those like mission hats.
Yeah.
That you can wet and then wring out and it's great for mowing the lawn, but it's also great at Disney because no amount of sunscreen is really going to do the job on a bald head that's sweating all day long.
Yeah.
So for me, I think sun protection is a better way to to call it. We don't use the spray in the morning. We have found a very good strategy is to apply one of the better ones, when you leave, and then keep the spray one in your bag for quick reapplication.
Yep.
So I think that is something that needs to be. You need to reapply throughout the day. It can't be a one and done situation. And it sounds so obvious, like, hey, you're going to be in the Florida sun, put sunscreen on. But you can always point out the tourist who forgot their sunscreen.
Oh yeah.
And it is something that if you forget it and you get burned early in the trip, you're going to be miserable, especially if you were wearing like a tank top that day and then you can't wear anything that's going to be touching your shoulders the rest of the trip. It's insane how, like, it doesn't matter how much you think you're used to sun, it's different there, And so the one thing I was going to mention, in addition to the hat, the sun protection, this is the one I was saying that I would do differently. We didn't use them, or I didn't use it, but my kids did. And this was something that you told us to bring.
Oh yeah. I know what you're going to say.
Because of all the lines being outside at Hollywood Studios.
Yeah.
Sun umbrellas.
Yep.
Are a very good idea. I don't think you need them. You certainly don't need them in Animal Kingdom because there's so much cover there.
Yeah, I think on Amazon they're called UV umbrellas,
something like that,
to block the ultraviolet rays.
Yeah, it's not an umbrella that you'd use for rain per se. I mean, you could use a rain umbrella for sure. They're just a little bit heavier because these UV ones are pretty lightweight.
Yep.
So I would say that sun protection is my number 5 and Rob's number 5 as well. Do you have anything else to add?
I sure do.
Okay.
So I also am bald, and I have a hat similar to Nick's, but that hat I wore, I didn't wear on this last trip, but the previous one, and there's pros and cons to it. So it's like a North Face hat. How do you describe them? You had a good name for I can't think of what the name of the hat is. It's the one with the brim all the way around.
Yeah, it's just
what do you call it? It's like a jungle hat or something.
Kind of, yeah.
One of the benefits of that is that you can get it wet and wring it out and put on your head. It cools you off. But mine also has a string on it.
Yeah.
So when I go on rides, I would kind of throw it behind me.
So does mine.
Yeah, so that was kind of a benefit. This particular trip, I just wasn't in the mood for it. I have no problem, but when I go to the parks, one thing that I like to do is I like to wear my Buffalo Bills hat. Mainly because he's laughing, but he knows because if I'm wearing my Buffalo Bills hat and I'm walking around the park, Buffalo Bills fans have a way of communicating when they see each other. You simply say the words, "Go Bills."
Go Bills.
So we would get that.
You would have to say it
Go
back.
Bills.
Go Bills.
And if they don't say it back and they just look at you in a weird way, not a Bills fan.
Right, they're just wearing the hat.
They're just wearing the hat. So I always try to wear, and previous trip I wore my Bills hat too. But here's my point. My point is that I have a mesh Buffalo Bills hat. So you have to remember, as a bald person, even if you're wearing mesh, the sun is still getting through.
Yeah.
So the mesh is nice. It's nice and cool. I had no problem wearing that hat most of the trip. Yes, it gets hot. I take it off from time to time. But I also have to apply the sunscreen to that back part of my head. So if you're listening and you wear a mesh hat and you don't have any hair, or you are married to somebody that has that type of hair and wearing a mesh hat, make sure that there's still sunscreen in the area because you still can get burned.
Yeah. But the important thing here is that you should bring extra sunscreen or extra products, sun protection products with you to the parks because you're going to need it. So.
And buying them at the parks is pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's cost prohibitive to say the least.
Yeah.
So, all right, number 4.
Anyway, so yeah, my number 4 is one that's very important, especially because everything you have to do in the park these days is digital and is done on your phone. And no way.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to let you.
Dude.
Vegas is loving today.
Yeah, I bet Vegas odds are loving today. Anyway, so since everything is done on your phone and on your digital device, and it's constantly tracking where you are in the park, your location, that your power seems to drain very, very quickly. So my number 4, and apparently Nick's number 4,
Yeah.
is I just put the word power, but that also includes battery pack,
power banks.
slash
Bricks.
a cord.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'll start with this one because I know you probably have something prepared with power banks, and your wife is actually very knowledgeable about this and gave me one, which I appreciated. But one of the cool thing that I don't know if people know is that there's certain places in the park where they have the USB charging ports.
Yeah.
One of the nice ones is almost like a quiet little area across from the Rapunzel bathrooms, kind of in the area of in between Small World and Haunted Mansion, where you can sit, plug in your phone, and charge and relax in the shade.
Yeah.
Well, partial shade.
Yeah. But there's also some, I believe, over in Epcot in the, what's the name of the new restaurant / Starbucks over there?
Oh my gosh. Connections Cafe.
Yeah. So there's some charging stations over there too. But yeah, you definitely need to have that with you. Now, here's the thing. I will be honest. I have relatively newer phone, and the power doesn't drain as quickly. However, if you're using Genie Plus, and you're refreshing nonstop, playing the Genie slots per Ear Scouts, you definitely are going to want a power bank.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if you're planning on doing anything with those new Magic Band Pluses, that's another reason now you need to have
you have
them.
to charge those too. I didn't
Yeah.
even think of that.
So they like
Explain how that works.
So if you're in the parks doing, let's say you're at Hollywood Studios and you're doing the Bounty Hunter stuff, in Batu, the early reports were 2 hours and people's Magic Band Pluses were going dead. That's not a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean it still functions with the RFID stuff. It still functions as a Magic Band. It just doesn't do the cool, like, interactive piece. It doesn't do the light up.
And the haptics, which means vibration, essentially.
Yeah. So if you're planning to use them, especially if you have kids, because they will get devastated, make sure you have your Magic Band Plus charger, which is proprietary. Of course it is.
Does that actually come with the Magic? Okay.
It does, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it was sold separately.
That would not be a shock, no. But if you're going to plan on doing any of that, you're going to want to make sure that you have a charger with you, because the other thing is they don't necessarily come charged.
Yeah, I think, again, early reports were saying when people turned them on, they were, was it around 40% charged, the first ones?
Yeah.
Another fun fact and an aside based on this, the original ones that people had, like the first wave of the Magic Band Plus had a QR code on it.
Oh, the one where you scanned and it was sending them to like
a vacuum
Yeah.
website.
Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah. Here, buy your Kirby vacuum. Oh, man.
Anyway, so we have number 4 is our battery pack. The only other one that I'll share that was something I have tried out recently.
Don't forget your cords too. So
Yes.
So
well, that's
make sure.
exactly what I'm getting to with this one. So I recently, I'm an iPhone user, and Nick yours is Samsung, right?
Yeah, I use Android. Yeah.
Which is kind of nice because we get to see how all these things work on both phones. So I really appreciate that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So what I bought recently was something called a MagSafe case, and what it is on the back of your phone case there's like a magnetic area, and you can buy a battery pack that is also, it's part of the MagSafe battery pack. It'll connect magnetically to the back, and you won't even need a cord at all, and it charges your phone.
Yeah. The cord, I mean, obviously the wireless charging is a game changer for a lot of these phones. I think the other thing to remember is that some of these power banks can get heavy, right? So be smart about how much you bring it. Like, you can charge them every night, right? You don't need something that's going to last you the whole trip. So it's very easy to get like, oh, well, I want this one because it has this many charges. You're not really going to need the biggest one out there. I think I've got like a 10,000 milliamp hour one that will charge my phone and my wife's phone, and then we'll go back to the hotel, we'll charge it up overnight, and it will be good to go.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point. Is we didn't really mention that earlier, as weight is kind of a big deal too in your bags because you're going to be carrying these things around all day.
yeah.
So based on what we say, I mean, you can obviously make your own decisions on what you want to bring around in the park, but just remember that you really need to pack what's going to be best for your family. And if there's certain things you can downsize, like the battery pack, if it's extra heavy, you can buy a lighter one and just, I mean, your battery, I would say hypothetically, on the average person that's using Genie Plus and booking all your dining reservations, it will last probably till maybe after dinner time, maybe 7 o'clock ish, and then you're going to run into the
If you
red.
have a newer phone,
Right.
I would agree. If your phone is starting to show its age, and usually the first thing that the age is shown by is like the deterioration of the battery life.
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if you didn't make it much past lunch. If you're traveling with teens who are perpetually glued to their phones,
Yeah.
it's going to be worse. And I noticed it, this particular trip, we were doing a little bit more photography and video stuff for Instagram and whatnot because of the podcast. And so I definitely noticed that I needed to charge it more frequently.
Yeah.
So if you're creating content at all, you're going to need to have battery packs.
Definitely. So my number 3, I think this is where we're going to kind of deviate a little bit here in 3, 2, and 1. Maybe not. My number 3 is actually related to number 2. So I'm going to go through what I have for 3, and then I'll talk a little bit more. They're related, but still separate, and you'll see why.
Okay.
So number 3 for me is something that is important, but not really necessary. And it's something almost everyone is going to encounter when they go to the Disney parks, and that is rain.
Okay.
So what I do is that for each one of us, I will buy, I don't know, maybe like a Columbia raincoat, something that's thinner but still rain resistant and not going to be super, super heavy. Some of those raincoats are almost kind of like a rubbery. You know what I mean?
They're too heavy. They're
Right.
not heavy, but they trap your body heat as well, and so you end up getting really sweaty. Yeah.
Now mine's similar to yours. You have a Columbia one, and so do I.
We have the same exact one.
Well, that's also true. That's another funny story.
Yeah.
I have the same raincoat as Nick, and what I'll do is it depends on who has backpacks. My wife and I always have backpacks when we're in the park, and usually I will roll up in nice little ball at the bottom of my bag, the raincoat. I put it like off to the side of my bag because I know I'm probably going to need it.
Yeah.
If you are in Disney World in the summertime, it's almost guaranteed that it's going to rain at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Almost every day. That's what happens. So you're going to need access to it. So I'll have one, and then I'll probably hang on to my sons or my daughters, and then my wife will have hers and my sons or daughters. Now, the other nice thing about that, too, with the rain gear, if you're in Animal Kingdom and you're going in Kali River Rapids,
Why?
it's no surprise that is going to be your, if we do a top worst rides,
Yeah.
that would be your
That
number
ride
one.
sucks.
Or if you were riding, let's say, Splash Mountain before it becomes Tiana's Bayou Adventure,
Anytime you're on a water ride,
you can break out the raincoat.
I agree.
Yeah. So we have those that it's a little higher up on my list. Is it mandatory? No. What you will see more than anything else is people that don't know this tip and are not prepared and wearing the Disney ponchos.
That costs them so much money.
They do. Disney makes so much money off of them. I think they're, what are they, $20 our last trip for the poncho, maybe 25.
I think it was 20. And
Which-
you can buy like a 12 pack of like disposable ponchos on Amazon.
For the same price.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have Mickey Mouse on them.
True.
That's the other benefit. And they're probably like the size of, and probably the weight is equal to like just a trash bag.
Yeah.
You could probably just do a trash bag with a hole in it. It would be exactly like those ponchos.
Speaking of which, I have seen, it might have been this last trip, I saw somebody with like Ziploc bags on their feet.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I remember seeing that. I think it was this last trip. Remember the day that we went in and it was like, it was the first night where we were huddled underneath the train station.
Yes.
That right there, I remember seeing somebody that night with trash bag or Ziploc bags on their feet.
Another strange aside too. I was looking on Facebook the other day, and there was a photo of a kid with bread bags, like Wonder Bread bags, over his feet.
Yep.
And I had forgotten that in the 80s, not my mother to be specific, but kids would show up to school with bread bags over their shoes.
Over their shoes. Man, I remember that too.
I think that's a generational thing. I'm sure some people listening right now are going, I remember that. Kids would show up with bread bags.
I did not wear bread bags on my feet.
Neither did I. But people, I appreciate my mother not making me do that.
People definitely did it.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, number 3 for me is I just put anti-rain gear. So I'm guessing yours is different because you're not smiling right now.
I mean, yeah, my number 3 is a water bottle.
Oh, geez.
Refillable water bottles.
Great.
What we generally do is, so we do 2 things. We buy like cases, multiple cases of water on our first day. Either, if we're with a ride service that's dropping us off at Publix really quickly, or through Amazon or Walmart food delivery, whatever you're doing, right?
I think we did Walmart last time.
Yeah, we did do Walmart, but we've done Amazon before.
And we've done Publix.
We've done Garden Grocer, I think is the other one that people have used.
I haven't used that one yet.
Instacart type things.
Yep.
So what we do is we'll take and put them in the freezer part, because we're in a villa, so usually there's a freezer part of the refrigerator. That's not the case in regular hotel rooms, but if you happen to have a freezer, this is what you should do. Freeze them. And then in the morning, what I do is I'll fill up our whatever water bottles we're taking. Usually we like to take the nicer water bottles that keep things cold. Yeah. So, your Yetis or your hydro flasks or whatever,
RTIC, Arctic. Yeah. There's a bunch of brands that are really good.
So I will fill those up with cold water. They'll stay cold a while. And then I'll pack in our bags the water bottles that were frozen. And by the time you need a refill, those frozen ones are generally starting to thaw. You'll pour them in. You can get a refill. You keep refilling it. Now, you can also obviously get water bottles at the park, bottles of water at the park, and you can get refills at some quick services. They'll do your, they'll fill your, or give you a cup of water and you can fill your bottle.
Yeah, it's pretty widely known that most of the quick service restaurants will give everyone water at no cost.
Right. Now, the thing that the reason that this is on my list and why it's where it's at 3 is because it is exceedingly important that you stay hydrated. Now I have not done this or used these, but someone on Instagram responded, hydration tablets. So basically it's a tablet. Think of it as like a medication that provides you with electrolytes. So in addition to your water, they make different ones. They make ones that are like chewable. They make ones that go into the water themselves. I have players on my soccer team who use them in their water. They drop the hydration tablets in there, or they're like little vials, sometimes already like powders.
I've never heard of that.
But I don't use those in the park just because for me, I rip through water anyway. I'm just drinking it, and I get why people would want to take those because maybe they're not drinking as much water. But I mean, it's up to you. But my point is, make sure you do what you know you need to do to stay hydrated, because you do not want to get dehydrated at Disney. You just don't.
Now, I'm under the assumption, but I'm second guessing myself, that Powerade, which is readily available at Disney World, is Powerade similar to Gatorade, where it has electrolytes for hydration?
Yes, but okay. I would not spend the money. I don't feel it's wise to spend your money that you can spend at parks on
drinks,
on bottles of water and Powerade.
We do very occasionally, as like a treat for the kids. We'll get them like a bottle of Powerade, but we kind of look at it as like
that's
a treat.
Different.
Like,
that's different. I'm talking about like when
for the day.
When you're getting it because you're dehydrating, right? That's on you. You made the mistake of not. Now, if you're getting it because, I could really go for a Powerade right now. That's fine. That's a fine use of money.
Now, that's in our bags too. And I mean, that one is not on my list, but definitely is mandatorily part of my bag every
Right.
single time. But I agree with you fully, and that's a great choice.
And bringing the extra bottles is key for me because I am one who, like, bad water is just not, and Orlando water is not good.
Yeah, my family lives in Orlando. They never will drink. If they go out to eat, every single time they order it with lemon because it has, I think it's a lot of sulfur in it.
Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what
Or
it is.
chlorine.
Well, it's sulfur that I always taste at Disney, and I can't deal with it. So usually, what I'll do is bring extra bottles, and then if I have to, I'll drink the water from a park. But usually, by the time that I'm through all the water bottles, by my family's through all the water bottles that we've brought with us, by that point, we're either heading back to the resort for a break, or we're going to sit down for lunch, and maybe I'll have a beer or a soda or something else. So it's not. The amount of water I bring with me is enough that I should be fine for the time that I'll be in the park.
That's great. My number 2, as I mentioned earlier, is related to my number 3. And we had a really bad experience when we went December of 2019. We had a day where it was a park hopping day, and we started off at Animal Kingdom, and it was pouring rain. It was pouring. And we had our raincoats. We were ready to go. But my poor son, his shoes got soaked. And we looked everywhere for shoes or Crocs or really anything else that he could put on his feet.
I knew this was going to be on your list.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
you
this
swear by
poor kid, I mean, his feet were just swollen and beat up, and not to embarrass him, but this would happen to anybody. Like, you're walking around all day, it starts to smell a little bit.
Yeah, you get trench foot.
Yeah.
Man,
So
straight up.
I felt so bad. We looked everywhere for sandals, and they didn't have anything in his size, or like there was nothing. We tried everywhere, every single store,
Yep.
and there was nothing. We felt so bad for the kid. So since then, what we've done is in our bag every single time we have a change of footwear. Now, let me be specific how we do this. When we go to the parks, we make sure that we are wearing footwear that is either a running shoe or some type of cross trainer that's good for walking miles and miles a day. I mean, depending on how you go to the parks, I mean, you could be up to, I can't even give you an estimate how many miles. It depends on.
Yeah, 22,000 steps, is nothing to do.
Right.
And that's nothing.
So my advice number 1 is wear very comfortable sneakers. A lot of people don't like that. When it's super hot, they want to wear something that's more breathable, like those Keen shoes or the Tevas that are a little bit better for walking around, which could work. But what we like to do is wear comfortable sneakers that we can walk around in all day, and then we'll pack either slides or Crocs or something that's very, very light. So those can go in our bag. That way, when it starts pouring rain, we make the switch. So we'll kind of pull over to the side somewhere that's covered, put on our raincoat, take our sneakers, put those in our bags, and then we take out our lighter footwear. So like I said, Crocs, slides, flip-flops, whatever. Doesn't matter, because that same trip, I had my slides on, and we were walking through Tomorrowland from, where were we? We went from Carousel of Progress, and we cut across by Cosmic Rays, and we were going up by Mad Tea Party, and we hit a good 6, 7, 8 inches of water, that's quite a bit of water.
Yeah.
Just, it rained so hard and so fast that day that it didn't drain fast enough. So I have video of it sloshing through that water, but I'm wearing my Adidas slides so that when the rain stopped, I took those off, let them dry off a little bit, wiped them off with a towel or a paper towel, whatever we had, and then switched back shoes. So I tell that story a lot, but it's a very important one because my poor son, boy, his feet were really hurting by the end of the day. And the rest of us, yes, our shoes were wet. I was wearing shoes that were like a leather type shoe. It was like a Nike Air Force shoe, and they repelled the water a little bit better. And I think we ended up just taking our socks off, and we did a little bit better with that. But Number 3 for me is a biggie, and that is footwear.
And number 2, right?
And number 2, yes, that's
But it was tied to your number 3 because it has to do with the fact
with
of
rain.
dealing with rain.
So 2 and 3 both have to do with rain and how to fight the rain and really be successful in the Walt Disney World parks. And if you're listening and you have never been to the Walt Disney World parks, it's going to rain at some point while you're there. My best advice, if you want to be happy and you want your kids to be happy, or if you don't have kids, whoever you're with on your trip, plan ahead. Make sure you're ready to fight the weather.
So number 2 for me is rain gear. So I know you talked about it at number 3.
Yeah.
I didn't really add much to the conversation because I knew it was coming up. But number 2 for me, rain gear. I too believe that you should have a rain jacket with you, possibly an umbrella, dependent upon where you are.
I think I knew you were going to add that too, actually.
The thing with the rain gear is I've tried multiple different things, right? I've had ponchos one year. I've had my rain jacket now that I wear. One thing I'm going to say that I wish I had done prior to this trip that I will do next year. Do yourself a favor, go to Target, go to Walmart, look it up on Amazon, find tent sealer. Okay? And basically it's for camping, it's a waterproofer. And you can spray it. It's like an aerosol. You can spray it onto your jacket because I noticed this year that the amount of rain we were getting at Disney World was actually the water was seeping through the seams of that jacket.
Oh, interesting.
So it makes sense, right? The jacket gets washed and, the thread gets, there's holes. When you sew something, you're putting holes into it. So it makes sense that some water could get through. But you can get this light, and they make it for fabric, right? I say tent sealer, but you don't have to. You can buy like fabric waterproofer, but spray it down, let it seal, and then it's kind of like a wax coating. You'll notice it immediately. When the water gets on it, it beads up and washes off.
It sprays out black, right?
Yeah, it's just it's like a spray paint.
That's a joke, folks.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's clear.
Yeah, it is. But I'm not talking about doing this on like a nice expensive jacket. We're talking about it is a Columbia one, but it is a cheaper one, and it's a self-packing. The one we have, like there's a pocket on the inside that folds up into itself,
and you can zip
it right up, and it goes at the bottom of your bag. I will also say that you should get kind of on this. So rain gear, right? It rains so hard that your legs will likely get wet. Your shorts are going to get wet. The water's going to roll off of that jacket onto your legs. If you have electronics, i.e. your phone, in your pocket, it could damage it. Yeah. And so it is important.
That's a really good point.
It is important that the bag you choose has a waterproof pouch. So my bags that I use, they're cheap bags you can go on to Amazon and find, and I forget they're not even a name brand. That's why I'm not going to even bother trying to name them. But if you search up like packable bags, they are super easy to pack because they're very lightweight. But on the inside, they have a waterproof pouch, and in that pouch, I put things like if I happen to have cash. I rarely have cash on me at the parks. I rarely have cash on me anytime now with the way that everything's moved to a card-driven society. But any paper products I have, anything I need not to get wet.
Band-Aids.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Things like that. That goes into the waterproof pouch. That's where I put my the power banks. That's where I put any cords. Is in there. It makes life much less stressful because you now know that your phone's not going to get fried by the rain. So what I wrote down wasn't rain jacket, it was rain gear. So being prepared for the rain in general. I'm not a person that brings an extra pair of shoes, but that's because I'm still carrying the bag for everybody.
Yeah.
We do usually have something for the kids in case something like that happens, but like I'm not bringing it. I'll just suck it up and deal with it. I will say that I would be out of luck if my feet got wet because I have very large feet and they don't even, like the Crocs don't even come in my size. So I'd be out of luck.
Really?
Yeah. I looked everywhere last time because I wanted the Disney World Vault Collection map.
Oh, those
Crocs.
those are cool.
And they do not they did not come in my size.
Huh.
They went up to men's size 11.
Huh. Interesting.
So yeah, I would need a 13. So
I'm wearing Crocs right now.
yes,
Are we
yeah, that's it. I'm good.
okay?
I'm good to go.
My number one is a weird one, but it means a lot to me personally. And I'll start off with a story to explain why.
Something in your park bag that means a lot to you personally.
Well, kind of.
Okay.
I'll explain. So,
Okay.
For I'm also a musician, and for many years, we would sort of essentially live on the road and tour with my band, and there wasn't a lot of days where we could get a shower and get cleaned up and things like that. So we learned to rely on, I'm calling them the fresh items, the items where you can freshen up and feel good and recharge. So let's say we're on the road with one of my bands that I played in, and we don't get a shower that day. So there's certain things that we would like to use to make us feel better, which I'm going to get to right now. And Nick is laughing at me right now, too.
I am, but I totally understand because you feel better
I do.
after you've freshened up.
Yes. And so some of these items for me that I like to use, and I'm going to try to not get super specific or personal with how I use all these items. You can kind of leave it to your imagination. One that I like to use and I prefer to use is Gold Bond powder. They also make a Gold Bond spray. So Gold Bond powder you can use really anywhere in your body, anywhere where you're super sweaty and you want to freshen up, arms, chest.
Does it help with chafing?
I'll get to that. That's on the list, but that one's not there either. Well, I'll get to that one. So Gold Bond I like a lot. I use the Gold Bond powder. My family members will use it. It helps you feel fresh and clean. And so I will keep a little thing of Gold Bond powder. Also, another one that has a weird name, but I actually like it. And I don't even know if you've heard of this before. They're called Dude Wipes. And
I cannot believe the right hand turn that this podcast has taken.
Look, man, I'm telling you what I use.
I know what
I like.
Yeah, I know what they are.
Yeah, it's like a freshness wipe. If you're getting real sweaty, you can use it to wipe yourself off.
I don't think that's what they're marketed as.
You can use them other ways too. Yep. But this is how we're using them as a family.
Gotcha.
The other one you mentioned too is we like to use Body Glide, which is if you have any kind of runner or shorter shorts and your legs are rubbing together by walking all day long, you can use Body Glide, which kind of makes it so if you're getting sweaty or your legs won't chafe.
Look, people might be thinking this is like cringeworthy. I'm here to tell you this isn't on my list because I don't put it in my bag, but I will be damned if I go to Disney and don't bring Body Glide.
Yeah.
And like kids too, because you're walking so much, you do not want to ruin your trip. Mm-hmm. Okay, even if you think it's not something that's necessary, it's necessary. And that and like blister things for your feet, like blister pads. Like what do they call it? Moleskin. Mm-hmm. Like you better have that stuff with you because you are going to need it. When you don't bring it is when you will need it. So anyway, go ahead. Well, fresh items.
The category is fresh items. So let's see. I did Gold Bond, Dude Wipes, Body Glide, deodorant we have in our bag. But the other thing too is if you're staying at a hotel near the park that you're going to, you don't necessarily have to bring all these things. These are more on the list for people that are going to do a marathon day and be there all day long. Because you can go back to your room and do these things and then come back. Nick, you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah. The reality is, yes, that's true that you can go back. We stayed at the Polynesian, and I will tell you that I had a small little, and I don't use this as deodorant, but I had a small little Axe body spray thing in my bag on our Magic Kingdom day because I knew we were going to eat at Jungle Skipper. And look, the reality is you're going to get sweaty and you're going to smell. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be that guy, right? And it's not because I'm not clean. It's because it's 95 degrees out, 100% humidity, and you're walking 12 miles, And so by the time lunch rolls around, we had a late lunch. I believe it was like a 2 o'clock reservation. I can't remember. It was a late lunch. By the time that rolls around, you're going to need some freshening. And it makes you feel like a different person. It truly does. So I agree with you.
And my last, and I have a story about this too, is when we were in Hollywood Studios, and Nick always says, it's the hottest park. And heck yeah, it is. We had a reservation for Oga's Cantina.
Oh, it was so hot.
What time was that? That's important for the story, because I'm sure you remember all the times. Do you remember what time that was?
As I recall, it was a 12:45 time.
Okay. So by 12:45...
It may have been a 1:45, but it was definitely something 45.
It was so hot, and I was wearing a white shirt. I don't know, maybe the shirt I'm wearing right now, possibly. I was wearing a white shirt, and it was so hot that my sweat had soaked through that entire shirt. Like the shirt was wet, and it was only 12:45. So the other freshness item that I recommend, especially for, bigger guys like us that sweat a lot, is Nick's looking it up right now.
Look at my number one, Rob.
Oh my God. Wait. Nick just showed me his. So my final thing that I recommend, and then I'm going to hand it off to Nick, is a change of shirt. I went into the bathroom while we were at Olga's. I stepped out, went to the bathroom, changed my shirt, came back in, and I am telling you, I felt like $1,000,000 once I literally changed a shirt. Your number one, Nick, is
a shirt.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, that same day, it's so hilarious that he's telling the story about that day. Because if you look at the pictures from that park that day, in the morning I'm wearing one Star Wars shirt.
Yeah.
In the afternoon I'm wearing a different Star Wars shirt.
Yeah.
And my wife at one point, as I recall, maybe it was my son, I can't remember. Somebody was looking at pictures and said, "That's a different shirt." Like they didn't notice it in the day because like they were both kind of like a charcoal heather type of shirt, lighter shirt. And I needed to change. And you feel like $1,000,000 because you're walking around in this sweaty shirt that's sticking to you. Mm-hmm. You've had a backpack on the whole time. And then you change your shirt and it's like, hey, that's awesome.
I feel great. And then the nice thing too is,
and I changed at the same exact time. So like if you look at pictures before Olga's and after Olga's, I am wearing a different shirt. It's hilarious that you brought that up, and that it's not both our number ones. It is. I know it sounds silly, but you bring an extra shirt,
and you can buy one at the park if you really need to. But I mean, do you want to spend $35 on a T-shirt when you can put one in your bag that's gonna weigh next to nothing in your backpack?
I mean, it's definitely worthwhile. The added weight in the bag is worth it because you will definitely. I definitely use it. That was the first time that I had actually changed in the park, and like usually I'll go back to the hotel, change, and you feel better or whatever. You might even shower midday. Just the changing of the shirt. My whole attitude was like, oh man, that feels so much better.
Yeah.
You just relax and we were able to change the shirt, put some body spray on or whatever you've got.
The Gold Bond powders, that's mine. That's the killer for me.
The
Gold Bond powder, change of shirt, you feel like $1,000,000. And that's what we would do when we were on the road with the band. Change your shirt, put on Gold Bond, and what a lot of people did when we would tour with our bands is we'd get a pack of Hanes t-shirts. And you'd play your show and your shirt would be dripping wet. The reason I'm saying this is it's just like being at Disney. Yeah. We would take our shirt, we'd throw it in the trash, and we would just put on a fresh one. In Disney, don't throw your shirt in the trash. You put that in a plastic bag.
Yeah, everybody here is like, or listening is like, what a wasteful man. What a wasteful man.
Nah. I don't think anyone would want to touch that shirt after we just played the show. I
can't agree more about doing exactly what you just said, keeping an extra shirt in your bag. And, for that to go another step further, not so much for me, I don't have an issue with it, but I know that we've packed extra socks for the kids.
Oh, sure. That's a good one too.
Because sometimes even just your shoes aren't really soaked through, but once your socks get wet, they feel more wet than they are.
Yep.
And so if you change your socks, sometimes that can change your attitude quickly as well. A change of shirt in your park bag. You have any honorable mention stuff, or you have anything else to add?
I do. I was just looking at that actually. Yeah. Another weird one I put as honorable mention is it's an optional one, and that's your wallet. I mean, your wallet or
that's optional now.
It kind of becomes optional So if you're a newer listener here, you can actually put your credit card and link it to your Magic Band, and you can just use your Magic Band to pay for everything. But let's say you lose a Magic Band, maybe you want to pack an extra Magic Band, or maybe that's why you have your wallet so you can pay for your items. I don't know.
Well, and the other thing is too, if you're younger, going to the parks and you like, let's say you're at Epcot and you want to go to a festival, and you're younger, you are going to need your ID if you want to buy alcohol.
Yeah.
Now
I have that too.
For me, I don't generally get ID'd anymore. I don't know if it's the bald or the gray,
Yeah.
but one of the gray beard or the bald head. I'm rarely getting ID'd, but that's certainly something you want to consider having in your bag. I typically don't bring my wallet. I bring my ID. It's more of a like, if I lose my whole wallet, that's a problem. If I lose my ID, it sucks. But like,
Yeah.
because you lost your ID actually just before our trip this year.
I did. I got it back right before. Well, I was more concerned with the flight and being able to.
Yeah. I have on my short list of honorable mentions, I have a cooling towel. Now it's not on my, it's not always way up there as something I will use throughout the day. But when you're waiting for like the parades, when you're in line, so like Hollywood Studios, I never go to without a cooling towel.
Yeah.
They sell them in the parks. You can buy them in the park, sure. I don't slight you for doing that, but I also think it's another one of those things that like, just think ahead. I think they're called Frog Tog or something like that is the brand that I have. You can buy them on Amazon. They make miniature ones. They make larger ones. You wet them down before you leave. You got them in the parks, and you can re-wet them if you need to. But they do work. So that's on my list as a cooling towel.
The ones we have are almost like a scarf.
Mm-hmm.
So is yours like that too?
Ours, I've seen. So I have some of those. Those are the ones the kids use. Mine is a square one.
Okay.
But yes, the kids have ones that are like long rectangular scarf-like.
Yeah, I would say it's maybe ours are maybe 18 inches by
Yep.
maybe 6 inches or 8 inches.
Sure,
So it's
yes.
more of like a longer rectangle type shape.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah, it's a good one to have on the list too. Do you have any others?
I think what I would add is put in your bag something. So if you don't have one of those waterproof pouches in your bag, you should have a Ziploc bag in your bag.
Oh yeah,
And
I just mentioned that, but
and-
only
and
for wet
inside of
stuff.
that, you should put some sort. Now I don't carry it. Usually it's in my wife's bag, but you should probably bring some first aid stuff with you. Yes, there are first aid stations, but if you get a paper cut, if you get a blister, you don't want to have to run to the first aid station. It'd be much easier just to take out your own first aid thing and
just saves time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of another one that I would add, and that's actually been something that a lot of people have added or mentioned on Instagram, is that particular thing.
Oh
having those.
You said you had some people comment. I'm
yeah.
curious to hearing what listeners said.
I love the people who are committed to fashion over everything else.
And some people are.
Yeah, so I've got a couple people shouting out their extra ears, which my daughter would be happy about.
Sure. Hey, I'm not saying they're wrong. I mean, it's everybody's personal Disney experience.
Absolutely. I've got one person who commented plastic straws, which I didn't think about, and then I was like, oh yeah, plastic straws, because they've got the paper straws and stuff.
And a lot of those paper straws they put together with gluten.
Yeah.
Because anyway, I won't get into it, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good call. Or they have the metal ones too
Yeah.
that you can clean really easily.
Yep. We tried silicone ones, and they are not good, because like if you get a milkshake or something like that, they collapse on themselves. They don't.
Oh.
Like, because they're flexible, and so
right.
they're not great for like your milkshakey type stuff. And milkshakes or slushies with paper straws is useless. So definitely, I agree with that. I've never really thought about the plastic straw thing. And then a couple people mentioned the neck fan. I'm not a fan person in the parks, but a lot of people you'll see walking around with those rechargeable neck fans to keep them cool.
We've done the spray bottle fan before when the kids were younger.
Yeah.
They kind of had fun with it. It almost kind of became a like a fun activity to do in line. Mm-hmm. So it's like your typical spray bottle, and then on the end, the nozzle where the water comes out, there's a little fan right there.
And then one that somebody commented that is on my list of things, but I never think about it being in my bag because we always just have it attached to my bag with like a little lanyard or a little, like they make these things that hold the container and clip to your bag, and that is hand sanitizer.
Oh, yeah.
So those are things that people mention on social media, and I agree with all of those things, except for the extra ears. I'm not sure I would worry about on my head wearing the extra ears, but my daughter would agree that she needs to make sure she's up to a ridiculous number of ears at this point. But
I have one last one that I forgot that is not going to pertain to everybody, but it's an important one to me that just popped in my head as we were talking. And I have clipped on the side of my backpack a sunglass case.
okay,
It's a soft sunglass case because Nick wears contact lenses. I wear, typical black frame glasses, but when I'm going in and out,
Yep.
my eyes are sensitive. I have lighter eyes, and whenever I'm outside, almost always, I have sunglasses on because my eyes are sensitive. So I don't have transition lenses. It's not necessarily for me. Maybe it's for you, but not for me. So what I do is when I go in and out, I zip sunglasses and my regular glasses back and forth and put those in that little pouch.
We do the same thing for my son. My son has his sunglass case in our bag, and then we kind of swap them out when he goes into places.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree.
Yeah, that's another important one for me. Mm-hmm. But like I said, doesn't pertain to everybody. It's not like
it's
a raincoat.
Right.
It's that one's a personal one that I
think it falls under sun protection, right? I mean,
yeah, that's a good point. We could put that under that category because it's protecting your eyes.
Of polarized lens.
Yeah.
Sunglasses is important. So.
Yeah. Anyway, that was good. That was a great discussion. I'm happy with everything we came up with, and I knew our lists would be similar, but we both have different experiences, and I think hopefully everybody can take away one or two new things that you could really use on your next trip.
Yeah, and again, if you're listening to this and you have enjoyed, please do us a favor and share it with some people in your life who you think would benefit from listening, or if you've listened to an old episode and you're like, that really someone needs to hear this.
Yeah, or if you know someone who's going to Disney in the next couple months, say, oh, you need to listen to the episode where they talk about what to pack for the Disney parks.
Right.
Send them this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be great.
But it's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow's just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.